Are you listening? Damn. Yeah. Yeah.
Another episode of Trash Talk. I'm Damian Hill. With me, as always, is TJ O'Connor. And tonight we are joined by Angel Pacheco, who is getting ready to fight on Dana White's Contender Series, September 26th. And man, it's such a pleasure to have you on. We've had you on so many times before, but this is different. This is you going into the Dana White Contender Series looking for a UFC contract. How are you feeling right now? How did all this kind of come to be, and how long have you known about it?
I've known about it for I want to say a couple months. I was out here actually in New Hampshire. I was helping Rob Font get ready for Sa Wei Dong or something like that. Korean, I think he's Korean. Oh no, Chinese kid. So I was trying to help Rob for that. He's more of a boxing heavy kind of fighter. Actually, me, my wife, and my kid came out that time, and so they brought me out to train with him for 2 weeks, I think it was. And like on day three of being out here, my manager Tyson Chaurier, he looks at his email. He looks at me, smiles, shows me the email, and it says I'm fighting on the Contender. It didn't have an opponent or anything at that point, but they said, somebody uh, similar to my like skill set and everything. So yeah, so now I'm fighting 7-1 Danny Silva. I believe he's out of California. He trains at Cub Swanson's gym. I'm not sure the name of the gym. I don't know if it's just a UFC gym or if it's got a specific name, but he's a tough dude. He's got, I think, at least like an 80% finish rate. Mostly striker from when I've watched him. He's got a couple LFA fights I've been able to see on UFC Fight Pass. So yeah, but before like all this, I haven't fought in like a year.
Yeah.
My last fight was that Wilson fight. Supposedly, he just got signed to the UFC. Also, that was the kid I ended up flying kneeing in the face and then rear naked choking him or short choking him. But so that fight will happen. I was supposed to fight the following December, and then I had a knee injury, unfortunately, and I was out of training and everything for a while. I ended up getting surgery, PT. It was like earlier this year I was able to fight, and just on the local scene, it was kind of a little bit harder to find some stuff for me. Um, and then we ended up pretty much my manager said, well, you can try to take like a short notice fight and kind of put yourself at more of a disadvantage against like a stud, or we can wait. I'm very confident we can get you in the Contender. I was like, okay, well, I'll trust you, Tyson. And what do you know? We're here.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
I feel like on paper this fight is perfectly matched, and you kind of mentioned that similar style to you almost. He's real boxing heavy, the exact same record. On paper, the only thing difference is maybe he's a couple inches taller. How much confidence does that give you, knowing I'm not going in there to fight some guy who's going to try to make this boring. You're going to fight a guy who's going to give you an opportunity, to fight your skill set.
Yeah, definitely, especially for like the Contender series, right? Like nobody's going in there thinking I'm gonna wrestle this guy to death, and Dana probably won't enjoy that unless you take someone down and submit them real quick or something like that. It's not very fan friendly. So yes, I'm excited to fight, a guy similar to my style, but ultimately, like all styles, I gotta be ready for, and also, I don't know, like he might come out and shoot a takedown right away just to like change up tempo and things like that, or make me drop my hands more. You never know. So I'm not 100% banking on he won't try to grapple with me because it's very possible he will. Also, I feel like no matter what, sometimes people get hurt or like they feel power and they're like, ooh, let's try to take away a little bit of that pop if I start grappling and clinching and things like that.
Yeah. Now, okay. So when you're talking about the fight too, like like TJ mentioned, the two of you have similar styles. You fight like each other. When we see two wrestlers go against each other, it usually turns into a striking match. How do you feel when you see two strikers go against each other? Do you feel like one of them one of them's going to turn to a wrestler before the other, or do you think that both guys have a point to prove and that maybe this fight's going to stay on the feet the whole time?
Yeah, I'd say people normally, at least for strikers, it seems like it's the second. It's normally, oh, I'm better than this guy no matter what. I'm gonna stand with him and kind of go out on my shield sort of thing. I mean, I don't know if you guys watched the Masvidal pay-per-view or fights the other night,
Oh, yeah.
where Brandon Jenkins fought Anja Kawani, and that was almost completely a striking fight. There was a couple grappling exchanges and stuff like that. But for the most part, it was stand up, you know? So like I think that tends to happen a little bit more in a striking, like centered fighter. But like I said, I think ultimately, if you're hurt or something, if you have a higher fight IQ, you're gonna probably take a shot, even if it means you're gonna get stuffed, and as long as you can slowly recover from it, sort of thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's just, uh, it's hard to say, you know. But I feel like yes, we'll both probably try to stand and strike with each other, and maybe that might be partially like both of our egos or whatever. But it is what it is. I'm excited. I'm excited about the fight. I'm excited about the matchup. He has some differences, obviously. Like he switch hits a lot. He likes to calf kick a lot. So there's some real danger, and obviously when I feel like I'm fighting somebody that's dangerous, it just makes me feel uh I have to work that much harder, you know? Because I'm essentially, like, not that I fear people, but like if I fight somebody that I respect and that I know that they can hurt me if they get the chance, I'm going to be a lot more intense in training and a lot more focused, I guess. If I'm fighting somebody that I think, okay, I'm going to walk through this guy, I might not prepare as well as I should. And that might not be good to say, or like that might not be, but I think ultimately that's kind of the way humans are a little bit.
Yeah.
Not that I want to ever like underestimate someone, but it's just like I can't explain it 100%, but it's just it's something in us that's like I'm scared. I don't want to lose, and this guy could knock me out on national television. Uh, so I'm gonna work my ass off to make sure that I'm the one knocking him out on national television, sort of thing.
Yeah, dude. I know that probably wasn't put the best way, or you think that you didn't articulate it the best way you could have. But dude, I understood everything you just said. I understood all of that, dude. It's weird. There's no question, but yeah.
No, definitely. I mean, when the challenge is there, it rises that competitive nature and putting that work in. And you kind of mentioned earlier, you've been out in New Hampshire training with the cartel, training with these guys. Go without going into any specifics, obviously, being this close to fight, but how has camp been out there, and what has the improvements been like? If you feel like you've been able to make in your game, being so far away from home, being away from your wife and daughter, the work you're putting in for this fight.
Yeah. Before I go on to the camp, first and foremost, I gotta like take the time to appreciate my wife. She's at home. She works full time. She's watching the kid while working full time. That's not an easy job. Sometimes she's a handful when I'm just there, and she's not home or whatever. She's a 2.5-year-old little girl that loves to be silly, and uh, so I just want to let her know, Jessica, I appreciate you. You're the best. Um, sorry. Other than that, camp's been great. This is the longest I've been away from both of those guys. 3 weeks is a long time for me. So, but it's been great. I've been able to spar with Rob, Calvin, all the guys in the cartel. They got Connor Matthews that's going to Contender also the following month. It's all a bunch of high level guys that I get trained with in my weight class or maybe one weight class under. So it's a blast. I love it out here. Training every day specifically just for MMA, and being able, like I said, being able to get coached by Tyson and just kind of see how these like high level like Rob and Calvin prepare for fights. And I don't know, it's good to like pick their brains and stuff too. Like I sparred them yesterday. I sparred with Rob and Calvin yesterday. And I went up, talked to him afterward, got some pointers from some things I was having issues with. So it's like, it's unique, like, I could spar back when I was younger, when Brock was still active. I could spar with Brock and I could spar with Tony, Martin, and be like, hey, what I do wrong? But a lot of that also factors in their 170 pounders, and I was a 145 pounder. So it's like, it's a little different because I can't be as competitive with them as maybe somebody my own size, or it's not as realistic, I guess. Not that I can't be competitive, but it's just not as realistic, And not that we're like out here killing each other and trying to knock each other out and stuff like that, but it's crazy, the levels of fighters. Like I spar with Rob, I spar with Calvin, and it's different. It's very different. Obviously try not to give people too much respect, but also if you don't give them enough respect, you're gonna get buzzed. So you gotta pick your battles there.
Well, okay, so when you're sparring with guys that are different weights, when you talk about the guys that are 170s or even a little bit heavier, or the guys that are 55 and lower and everything, people move differently at different weights and stuff, and you're getting to spar and work with the different weight classes and everything. Now that you are working specifically with people that are in your weight classes, have you noticed anything different in your game that either works more, works better, or doesn't work at all that you were able to use on the heavier guys? Because like, let's say I have a quick teep, when I'm sparring one of the heavyweights, but that quick teep doesn't go as fast, or when I'm sparring a 155er who can react to it a little bit faster. What are the things that you've kind of noticed about yourself, if you're willing to share, or benefits or hindrances or whatever you kind of feel?
Yeah, no, definitely. Obviously there's sometimes a speed difference. At least in like hand speed, maybe not in foot speed, but there's a speed difference a little bit. Not necessarily against like Tony and Brock, because they're both really, really good athletes, like when they were young. But like sparring with other guys in like Minnesota that are a little bit bigger, like it's a huge speed difference. Like it's very noticeable, to where out here everybody's really fast. And like, I wouldn't say I'm one of the slower guys in the room, but there are really quick dudes out here. Also, just in general, like, there's, I don't know how to explain it, but like, it's like you're almost not this sounds stupid, but you're almost not afraid to get hurt against somebody more your size, at least for me. But I've always kind of been a dumb person. Like, I'll let, like my dad always says it, like, why are you standing in front of the heavyweight? I'm like, you don't hit that hard. I can just block and roll and stuff like that. So it's like, I can't get that. I can't do that with these guys, because they'll touch me and then they'll move and they'll be gone and they won't be in front of me anymore, to where like I can block, move, and then boom, go with like a bigger guy that's like more comfortable to stay in front of me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To where like, it's just, not that they're smarter, but a heavyweight doesn't have to move away from me. They're heavyweights. Like, they can let me hit them all day and they don't care, probably. So it's just, there's differences in that. It's a little bit more realistic, I would say. It's a little bit more realistic, because I mean, ideally you're always going to hit somebody and not get hit, right?
Yeah
100%. And just getting that timing at that highest level leading up to such a big fight. And I mean, this is kind of my silly question of the thing, but just, knowing how long you've been fighting, is there any difference game planning for a fight that's going to take place on a Tuesday? I mean, you're kind of switching up the scheme of things. Generally you have your plan, and any changes that you've been making, going harder midweeks, things like that.
No, not necessarily, to be honest. It's just a day, just like fights on Fridays compared to Saturdays. It's just a day. Like if I go outside and the dude shows up in the freaking parking lot or whatever, and he's trying to fight for a contract, and if Dana's here, I'm fighting him. It doesn't matter, you know. It's just the way it is. I love fighting, and that's why I do it. Like I wouldn't say I've made a bunch of money doing this stuff. And like obviously this is a chance to provide for my family and stuff, but I love it. And I think it doesn't matter necessarily like the time or the day or whatever. Like these guys last night in the UFC, it was like what, 7 a.m. or something like that for them guys fighting in Australia. So it's like
Yeah.
it's just things like that. If I'm gonna be in the UFC, things like that, I gotta be prepared for it. And I just feel like maybe that's a little bit different because obviously 7 a.m. I'm not a morning person, but uh, but just it being on a Tuesday doesn't make any difference to me. Like
Yeah.
when Tyler used to live back in Minnesota, every day was a war. So it is what it is.
Yeah. Now, okay, so you go on Dana White's Contender Series. You have the performance of a lifetime. He signs you. He puts you in the UFC. I've known you. Me and TJ have known you for so long. You're a guy who's changed weight classes before. You will fight anybody. How do you feel the matchmaking will go when you are in the UFC? Do you plan on switching weight classes, fighting as often as possible, or do you plan on fighting as soon as possible?
I definitely plan on fighting as soon as possible. Hopefully in December. But as for going up and down in weight, Um, I could foresee myself maybe going down eventually, especially with like the help of the UFC PI and things like that,
Yeah.
and them kind of like telling me if I can or can't do it safely. But I probably will never fight at 55 again. Um, those guys are huge. Unless I gain a lot of weight, like muscle mass or something, I probably won't do that. Just because the grappling heavy styles that are in the UFC, especially like that's tough to deal with when you're the smaller man.
Yeah.
So I'd say if anything, maybe down to 35, but I've had so much success at 45, I prefer to stay here.
Yeah.
Maybe once I do stay or once I am in the UFC and I am at 45, gaining a little bit more muscle. But aside from that, I don't foresee like the changing weight classes or stuff like that, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe it's
You're
like a matchup where it's like just a pure striker wanting to fight me. I could see something like that, but even that like is just different like they
yeah.
got different pop. They got, cuz those guys are coming from 170 now instead of 160 or whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
Like I know some featherweights that walk around at like 70 something. So it's like I know some some lightweights like Bobby Lee that walk around real big. So it's like
Man.
these guys are
I
big.
Yeah, there's some guys I don't know how they do it, but yeah, I was kind of that's why I was kind of wondering how you were gonna plan out the rest of your fights and stuff because you're not the biggest guy, but you're not afraid to fight anybody, but you are 145 or you're gonna stay at that weight unless you go down. That's the plan.
Yes, definitely. I mean, the only way, like I said, I would go down is if like I sit down, talk to the UFC people and say, hey, let's figure out if I can do this safely, if I can do this in a healthy manner.
Yeah.
Um, because let's be honest, like my style depends on my chin a little bit sometimes. Like I've been touched. Uh, and if you do a botch weight cut, you don't recover. You
Yeah.
get put to sleep. So
Yeah.
and my style, honestly, I don't at this point in my age, like I don't think it'll ever change. Not that I'm getting caught every fight or anything like that, but I give opportunity because all I'm trying to do is strike. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's just yeah, it doesn't make sense to me to go up a weight, especially at this point. It's like
Yeah.
I'm not just fighting anymore. I'm trying to provide for my family, and I'm trying to once I'm in the UFC, my goal is to be a champion. I don't
Yeah.
want to just be a guy that's like 10-10 in the UFC fighting for a lot of money. I want to be that guy that's like, okay, I beat this guy, beat this guy, beat this guy. Okay, let's get to the title fight, or be top 10 and then move up that way. My intentions aren't to be just a guy in the UFC. My ultimate goal isn't to just be a guy in the UFC. No matter what, whether my fight career ends earlier or later, I'm always be proud of my achievements and stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm always gonna strive to be the best. And if I, you know, like I said, there's too many people I think that get in the UFC and they're like, oh, I'm done, and I did it. I'm in the UFC, and they go 0-2 or whatever. That's not me. I'm trying to get to that belt.
100%. And your fan-friendly style is what got you to this point. And obviously, the first step of that journey does come September 26th. I think it's week 8 of the Contender Series. Just going into that fight, what type of fight are you expecting in your head, and what ultimately you're going to have to do to make sure you get your hand raised to secure that contract?
I think this might sound weird, but I think no matter what, as long as I win the fight, I will get a contract. The only reason I say that is because of his style and my style. There won't be a point where we're not trying to finish each other. So that that uh, that in itself will be a barn burner of a fight if I don't finish him. But I would love to get a knockout. Don't get me wrong. I do think the fight will end by stoppage of some sort. I think I will be able to overwhelm him. Like I said, he swings hard, he goes hard and stuff like that. As long as I don't get, hurt early in the fight, I think it's gonna be a long night for him. I think he's he he's not the level of boxer I am. I think he's a good boxer. I think he sits on his punches and stuff like that, goes to the body well and things like that. But I think he's just too wide. I think my straight punches and things like that will get to him, and I have more power probably than he thinks I do. So I think I'll be able to catch him, put him away within the second round, but we'll see. That's why we fight, I guess.
Yeah. You see something. You see something, bro. I love it.
Yeah.
TJ, take us away.
100%. I love the confidence, and just listening to you speak, you can tell that we're getting close, and I'm excited to see. Before we do wrap it up, though, always want to give the platform to thank any teammates, sponsors, anybody outside the gym that's been there for you leading up to this fight. I feel like we've done this a couple times. Platform is yours, sir.
Yeah. Obviously, always Brock Larson, my head coach. Tyson Chaurier, he's literally got me out here sleeping in his son's room, putting his other son in his his other son's room. So being able to stay here with him and train every day and things like that, I really appreciate him, his whole family, Sarah. Uh, I'm sure I'm a little bit of a burden to be here for 3 weeks or whatever, but they never, at least from what I can tell, they never complain about it or anything like that. So I appreciate both of them a lot. Obviously, my wife back at home, like I said earlier, I was getting a little emotional thinking about that. I really miss my kid, guys. It sucks. Um, I'm very much a family person, so it's hard. Even right now, thinking about it, ugh, it crushes me a little bit. I'm soft when it comes to that stuff, but yeah, I appreciate Jess. I appreciate uh her sacrifices, and dude's gonna have to kill me to be able to take this from me, you know what I'm saying? But other than that, obviously everybody from Start BJJ, all my main training partners, all those guys. Quick shout out also. McCoy just fought last night for the Three Rivers title. He blew out his knee, unfortunately. Right right when he landed like a killer shot on this guy. almost, it looked like the dude was out on his feet, and then he was like kind of came to, went after McCoy, but he blew his knee out, unfortunately. So that sucks. Sorry, it kind of got sidetracked. But everybody from start, everybody out here from the cartel, all these guys are killers. Like I said, there's Tom, Chris, uh, freaking hell. I can't think of everybody right now, but like Rob, Calvin, Tyson, Nick, all of these guys, they're pushing me every day, and I appreciate it a lot. Uh, but yeah, I'm excited. Also, the guys fighting in LFA from Minnesota, I will be unfortunately be missing their fights. None of them are in Fight Pass, but I love you guys. I know you're gonna do awesome. Joey, Derek, there's one more. Oh, Tyler Matheson. He's not from Start anymore. He's at Extreme Couture, but that's still my brother, no matter where he goes. So I hope those guys have fun out there. I know as long as they fight to their ability, they're gonna kill it. So that's about it.
Oh, dude, thank you. I love it. I love the fact that you love your team, you support them, and I love the fact that you love and miss your family so much, dude. I was starting to feel a little bit emotional when you were talking about that, dude. I love it. I can't wait for you to get back to see them. I can't wait to see you perform on Dana White's Contender Series, September 26th. Man, it was a pleasure to have you on. People watching, like this video, subscribe to Trash Talk with Damon and TJ. We are out of here, folks.